Welcome to Travel Tuesday, part of the Beard Bros Media Network, where culture meets industry. I'm your host, Brian Applegarth, Director of Sales and Marketing for the Cannabis and Hemp Tourism Division at J&S Next, a full-service creative agency and media hub serving destinations. Whether you're a seasoned cannabis professional or just beginning to explore the space, you'll find information and insights here on Travel Tuesday. And this episode is about the exciting launch of Beard Bros Travel, a strategic offering by Beard Bros Media. Beard Bros Travel is a tourism-specific solution tailored for the cannabis and hemp travel economy, destination experiences, and the cannabis travel audience that research has identified. Today, I'm joined by Bill and Jeff, the Beard Bros themselves, and Brian Holler, Chief Revenue Officer at Beard Bros Media, and Megan Prusynski, a key collaborator and contributor to the Beard Bros Travel brand. Bill and Jeff, thanks for joining us. Brian and Megan, thanks for being here. Let's dive in. So let's start with Bill and Jeff. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and starting with Beard Bros Media and how the Beard Bros brand came to be.
The Beard Bros brand came to be because it set us apart in Los Angeles. We started Beard Bros in 2013, and at the time, big beards weren't that popular in Los Angeles. They seem to be a lot more popular now, but back then they weren't. So it was a differentiator between us and all the other people that were cultivating cannabis at the time.
You're trendsetters.
That's right. Appreciate that. I think, and then the Beard Bros Media just was a natural extension of that. We'd been a product-focused brand from 11 to 18. With a lot of the changes in the regulations, it made a little bit more of a difficult path there. And the media was an opportunity to provide relevant information to people. At that time, point out disinformation or misinformation to people more often than not, and become a trusted voice to the community.
Awesome. Yeah. And with this evolution of normalization, it's kind of dovetailed into this travel and tourism conversation. So let's talk a little bit about the Beard Bros travel journey and how that began. So what first kind of brought the origin of this together and getting to this point where Beard Bros Travel is now? Where did it start?
The Beard Bros Travel started because who doesn't want to smoke pot and travel? That was our first inclination. But actually, we noticed what you were doing, Brian, along with the Cannabis Trail and the other things you were doing. And so Beard Bros Travel, the genesis really started when we reached out to you and said, hey, we're really interested in this. It makes a lot of sense to us. We recognize that this is going to be the future. There will be consumers that are traveling that use cannabis, and it's going to be something that has to be addressed. And we thought, hey, what a better place for us to be than at the beginning of something that's just starting.
Yep. And we ultimately created a lot of content around the core sort of tenants and areas that were being covered anyways. And we just noticed that as we got more sort of experience with our services, we realized they could be packaged in such a way that would really, really bring attention to that and do exactly what Bill said. Let's get in front of covering this area so that we can service this area, so that we can, be part of helping bring attention to, destinations, products, retails, all sorts of things in a key region.
Well, and in a similar fashion to the way we are with the plan, it's not just about promoting it. We're also consumers of it as well. We've also been traveling to cannabis conferences and cannabis events in different cities, different states, different countries now. And it's always, what can I do outside of the conference that I'm there for? How can I go do something that amplifies my cannabis use or allows my cannabis use to amplify the experience I'm looking for?
How do we tie that into the general area and all the other businesses and all the other people that are affected positively by, this event being there, or this location being there, or this destination being there? It's inevitable that it will tie into more and more things as everything becomes more normalized, opened up. Everybody learns more and they're educated. So, we want to be part of that.
Yeah, and I think the initial. Go ahead, Prue. No, please.
I think it's a good fit for the Beard Bros brand in general because they are at the intersection of industry and culture, and travel is culture. And, the Cannabis Trail is a cultural storytelling trail. So it all fits in very well together. That's I was working with Brian on the Cannabis Trail, and that's how we all kind of merged together and started meeting and talking about it. And let's see what we can do in this area.
Yep. And here we are. Look at us now.
That cultural backbone is a key part of tourism, telling those cultural stories, whether it's wine, whether it's coffee, whether it's grapes, or whether it's cannabis today. So that kind of led to other discussions. You know, as we started working on some of these cannabis trail storytelling content pieces, you know, we naturally started talking about this audience and digging into the research that I've been doing with MMGY Travel Intelligence since 2020. And I think that was kind of a milestone as well of understanding how this cannabis travel audience is different than the cannabis consumer audience. How did it hit you guys as we kind of went further down this travel rabbit hole and understanding a kind of slightly different audience profile with the travel audience versus the consumer audience of cannabis?
Yeah, one of the first things that I recognized was where we obviously do media for cannabis companies, but what I recognized was by combining cannabis and travel, now we can work with restaurants and venues and parks and people that are looking for promotion that are outside of the cannabis industry. And so for us, my biggest realization early on was that this could be a mainstream area for us to get into that would expand beyond just our cannabis coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it was, I think, just a natural progression. Also, on the other end, we were continuing to grow and covering, you know, numerous topics. We have a lot of services that appeal on a B2C side, but on a B2B side as well. And as that continued to grow, and we continued to, you know, learn more about who the decision makers are in the space, and as we're able to cover and work with even more companies in other fields outside of cannabis, even specifically, this seemed like also a natural progression of that pursuit internally as well. So it checked a lot of boxes. And I can't agree with Bill enough when I harken back to, like, do you not want to travel around and enjoy some, you know, plants as you're doing so? It could be worse. And you know, create good content, bring attention to a lot of amazing things to see and experience out there. So, you know, why would you not want to dig into that?
Cannabis goes well with so many things, you know.
That's kind of what I was going to say as well, is that there's so many people that are looking for the experiences around it, but it's also an amazing touch point to bring in new people, to have people at a museum or at an art gallery opening or something like that, and that haven't been around cannabis consumption, and there be, you know, hemp or cannabis beverages there that they try for the first time and go, wow, this isn't what I've been told it is, and it opens their eyes, and it's fun to see that, but it's also interesting to see a lot of the operators and the experienced people we know get into and get really excited about these opportunities because it's something new, it's something fresh, and it reinvigorates as well.
Yeah. Another bottom line for us is that this helps normalize the plant, which is really what's been Beard Bros' mission from the time we were Beard Bros, was to just normalize this plant.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and within that cannabis travel audience, really the way it's been studied so far is in 3 different segments: the Canna Curious, the Cannabis Wellness, and the Cannabis Connoisseur travel audience, and figuring out where your brand sits and how to reach that specific segment with your media dollars and your strategy to be able to entice visitation. I think something else really interesting about this audience, just to point out the differentiator, is of the 70-ish million Americans that choose which destinations to visit and are motivated by cannabis experiences and having access to that on vacation, 24% of those do not self-identify as cannabis consumers, but they would love to go visit a landmark or go visit a farm and see how it's like somebody who who may not drink coffee, but would go to a coffee farm, or may not drink alcohol, but wants to visit a winery. And just to highlight too, you guys talk about that intersectionality with partnerships, right? As soon as you're in the travel, the experience economy, you have a positioning to reach out to hotels and destinations and arts and culture and restaurants and all these businesses that are curious about this new cannabis travel audience that exists. So then the next evolution was we started this podcast, Travel Tuesday. So at what point did it register with you guys to start this? You guys are the ones that brought it up as that next milestone. Was there a specific moment, or what did you feel led to this?
I mean, I think you definitely hit on it. The cannabis trail was kind of the catalyst to it.
Yeah.
And hearing and seeing in more depth the stories of the pioneers and the cultivators in NorCal and the retails that stuck their necks out long before it was, acceptable to do so was kind of the impetus in wanting to continue to provide a platform to those people, but also just to, again, curate and cultivate a niche audience that's at the leading edge of it, that we can help be the stewards of.
Yeah, it just seemed like a logical sort of progression of what we were doing anyways. And we were getting to know you and Prue, and we were able to sort of see, we established the show, and we were like, well, wait a sec, that's one thing, and they're doing this, and we're kind of going over here. It just started, I think it organically came to us via our relationship, but it also, I feel like, might have happened anyways because of how we were all developing.
Yeah. And part of what we were trying to do with the Beard Bros Media Network, specifically with podcasts, was to take situations that we weren't experts in and get other people who were experts to get in. And Brian is certainly an expert in cannabis and travel. So it just completely went along with everything we were trying to do with the network, which was give other people an opportunity to speak, that they can import their knowledge onto people that follow us.
And all of us have worked together before, in various ways, right? I know Prue, we all live in California, there was just a lot of boxes that were checked, a lot of, shared kind of ethos and opinions. Yeah. And when you get that, you got to explore that with people. You really do.
On top of that, we were on regular phone calls for years, and we didn't get sick of each other. So there's that too.
Yeah, just following where it led us. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That's the kind of people you end up wanting to travel with.
Right.
Bingo. I think that is a nice sort of, not to segue off too much of the topic, but it is cool to see sort of an organic situation come out of just, well-intentioned. Hey, you're cool, we're cool, seems good. There's probably something we could do here. Let's chat. Chats end up becoming a little bit more action items, and the action items become a little more sharing, and sharing all of a sudden becomes some maybe commerce, and then there's a strategy, and you're like, hey, wait a sec, and all of a sudden you're on a podcast talking about Beard Bros Travel,
Yeah. Absolutely. And on this Travel Tuesday, we've had people like Cirrus Social Club out of Denver, Fields Canary out of Michigan, Kevin Jodry talking about Appalachians, Jamie Evans, the Herb Som, Luna Stour, Rose Moberly touching on wellness travel. So really covered a lot of different angles, from tourism, from events to lounges, to private dinners, to cultural travel, to beverages and travel, to sound baths. Really kind of trying to paint a palette of what this cannabis and hemp travel trend is today, with people that are really innovating. And the guests we've had have been really great to share their knowledge and what they're doing. And I will say real quick, like what I've witnessed too at the Beard Bros, it was always fascinating. You guys had this media platform, obviously cared about the cultural history, which really aligned us from the very beginning with this cultural travel storytelling. And then also you have this influencer brand, where in tourism, that's a big deal to have these travel influencers as a whole area where there's, significant interest of bringing in influencers to show and share about what a full destination experience is. And a lot of the influencers are scared of cannabis. So there's this gap where people like the Beard Bros, Jamie Evans, the Herb Som, Luna Stour, who are already traveling to these events and going to destinations, are naturally emerging as these travel influencers that are willing to lead this new era of hemp and cannabis tourism. So, from that angle, as somebody who's passionate about wanting travel stories to be brought to the forefront, it looked like just an amazing fit from what the work you guys have been doing for years. Is there anything else that I'm missing there that you feel is, your work with events, I think, has just been so obvious of how you show up and network and are present with the industry globally. Can you talk a little bit about your passion for events and the importance of showing up and being there as a brand, and how that may tie into tourism and travel for you guys?
Yeah, that's an absolutely huge part of it. We I still hesitate to use the word influencer, but I believe that we became influencers because we were just trying to normalize it. You know, we're East Coast guys. We grew up on the East Coast. Honestly, part of our building a lifestyle brand was just us trying to show our friends back East what we were doing. Like, it was just so different in cannabis from East Coast to West Coast when we got here in 2011, 12, 13. East Coast had no medical programs at that point, right? It was illegal. And here we were in California and everybody's openly smoking it, and we're having high times events, and there's 20,000 people showing up, you know, and it was just this amazing time. And so the whole lifestyle brand influencer just came about from attempting to normalize it. And a lot of that was the events. Jeff and I began going to events starting as far back as like the first MJ Biz in Vegas, just because we wanted to see what other cannabis companies were doing, right? Like, the only way you're going to know how the industry and the culture is progressing is to show up and check it out. And so the events for us just became, you know, first product promotion, then media promotion, and then eventually just being there was part of what we were doing.
Well, just the direct connection with people in person as we all went through, you know, pandemic, COVID in 2021 and came out of that, and the event circuit built back up to where it had been pre-COVID. It became much more about that intentional connection with people. And a lot of times you don't find that on an event or conference floor. You're rushing to something, somebody else is rushing to something. But when you take that out of that conference and you put it into a restaurant setting, or you put it into a nightclub setting or an art gallery setting, and you're bringing those same people into a more relaxed atmosphere, you get different conversations, you get different experiences. And whether that's, you know, we've done brunches in Berlin around ICBC, we've done, you know, after parties at NECANN in New York on a 3rd generation apple orchard. Like, so you're creating memorable experiences that people remember for multiple reasons. It might be the deal they closed at it. It might be the location that it's at. It might be seeing something they never had been exposed to before. So it really can be a connector of worlds.
Yep. And I mean, my background prior to being in, you know, cannabis, hemp, associated fields, all of our stuff, you know, was marketing, business development, sales, scaling, consulting, advising. I always put a lot of emphasis with clients and on myself, on like things like personal branding, or, you know, really leaning into your environment to generate content, you know, to talk about what you're doing around. People are interested in what you're doing if you position it correctly and you talk about it. And then that, of course, extends to, yeah, exactly. You're being authentic, extends to your environment. So I met Bill and Jeff 2018-ish. I'd been in the game just a blip. Where did I meet them? At an event. I'm pretty sure it was at a blunt brunch, if I recall correctly. It was in LA. And we just broke bread, essentially, and, you know, smoked and chilled and just talked. And that is how I ultimately come to be the CRO of the company. I mean, yes, about 7 years later or whatever, 6 years later, but we did a lot of we made a lot of progress in that time as like individuals or as together. And we did that more often than not through events. And then of course that led to like, hey, what's your number? And you can text, or we'd set up meetings every now and then, or I'd see them, and then we became friendly, and then it was working on things, passing each other business. And, you know, and it's just a very natural progression, which is something I think that is super important. You know, especially if you're really looking to grow in this space, it's very difficult to do so because of all the hindrances that are clearly there. You really need to lean on people that you can trust and build cool partnerships that are strategic and make sense. And you know, I love working with Bill and Jeff and with all of you actually to do that. You know, it's a pleasure. And events and experiences, to your point, Brian, are such a humongous key part of being able to do that. And I don't like influencer is a interesting word, but you know, I think it is important to cover where you're going to be. I think it's a nice accent. I think it shows people that you're around, or businesses you're interested in working with, and or partners, or just people you're friendly with, that that you care about what you do and you want to bring attention. And in our case, I think there's extra reasoning to do that. To Bill's point about normalization, I want them to see that the CRO of a media company and a product line that's doing successfully is enjoying a joint to relax. I want people to know that that's happening. They need to see it.
I'm glad that Brian brought up that particular event because it was a blunt talks, not a blunt brunch. Which
oh shit! I said brunch.
Both are fantastic events.
They are.
But that particular one was at the Museum of Weed in downtown LA. So it had a venue with a unique draw of its
travel
own.
experience. Yep.
So and we met Brian. He was there as an attendee of it. We also, I believe this was the first time we met Bill White, who works with us. He was there actually working a booth for a brand doing outside activations. So two connections to Beard Bros that are now helping us and doing things in Beard Bros Travel, both came to us through a similar event. And that event had Bill, it had Ted from Alien Labs, it had Mario from Stravinsky, and Jackie Stang as the guests up there speaking. So it was an influencer type of a draw to the event to get people to hear what their thoughts were on their subject matter expertise. But then it was also a communal mixer style around those talks, but also with B2B activations happening outside and happening at a downtown LA venue location that most people would go to if there was nothing going on at. So it had all of these different elements and didn't really give a thought to it until Brian really was bringing it up right now of how many of those different connect points all intersected at that one event. But you can say that about so many different events that we've all been to over the years because they all attempt to be differentiators. They all attempt to be a very unique experience that you'll remember just for the experience.
Well, we were talking. I just realized we were having the meeting. I won't say with who, but earlier today with a younger person who we've known for quite some time. And I remember him telling a story about how the first time he ever met Bill, Jeff, Bill White, and myself was at an event. It was a blunt talks. I believe their like third one that they did, like the one or two after the one Jeff was referring to. And he's now doing very, very great in the space and has done very, very good for himself. He still continues to crush it. And it's crazy to be able to just catch up with him and talk about stuff this morning with Bill and him, and just knowing that that's how we met, because this is what this is making me and us think about. Because I mean, the events are so important. Like ultimately it's that FaceTime really, there's a variety of types of events and things.
You see the same people and you realize like how small the space actually is too.
Yes.
But that's why it's good to diversify and have some different content that's not just cannabis, so you don't get shut down by only posting.
There's also that angle too, no doubt. Hey, I mean, they can't
talk about travel, talk about food.
With that photo, so exactly right. Yeah.
So there's a good marketing angle to getting some travel content into your mix as well.
I mean, even from the event side, a lot of the events I attend are travel industry events, and some of the best opportunities, including the research, was I was just happened to be at an event, participating, speaking at it on this cannabis tourism topic. And that's what led to my collaboration with MMGY Travel Intelligence. I just happened to be speaking right after one of the principals of that research company. And he approached me directly after that presentation and said, we got to do some research around this. And now it's a 5-year-long collaboration studying this audience. So the power of in-person and being able to connect in real time. And I think that also paints the picture of this massive bridge. The travel economy globally is about $11 trillion economy. And cannabis experiences and hemp experiences and the products and brands that are featured in those experiences, whether it's a landmark or whether it's a topical or whether it's a beverage or something else, it's an entire space that's very different from a commodity, a product, or a service. It's the experience economy, which is directly tied into tourism, which is an established global industry, and the brands and the organizations that put their effort into it. I truly believe there's an amazing opportunity that's very, very hand in glove with today's legal market. This was an experience economy that did not exist when cannabis was illegal and deals were done, in houses and this is out in the open, cannabis events, cannabis lounges, cannabis tour operators, and the destinations where there are tax-paying businesses offering these vacation experiences for visitors. So it's a very interesting
and the cannabis industries need to learn from each other and merge a little bit more. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yes, so much complementary sort of angles to take that are unique to just that relationship itself.
people will spend so much more money on an experience because they'll remember it and it will stick with them than they will on just like a thing or a product. So if you like can present that product in context of an experience, like there's value to that.
That was another thing
for cannabis to go there and have higher value items and higher value income because they're providing an experience, not just a product.
Yeah, that's part of what got us interested in as well, because when you're talking about travel and experiences, you're not talking about race to the bottom of the lowest CPG price.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is what a lot of cannabis has become, unfortunately, is just who can provide a pre-roll for the cheapest price. And that's for the connoisseur group of cannabis consumers. That's not at all what we're looking for. Yeah. We're looking for an experience and a quality product that we can enjoy. And so I think that it was a great fit for us as well, too, because our plan was never the race to the bottom to keep up with the 1 penny pre-rolls.
Yeah. And now there's a select few, media companies like the Beard Bros that are now starting to really, populate this travel and tourism specific content. And, it's amazing seeing it come alive. You're starting to see media companies on the travel industry side doing the same thing. And I feel like I see the kind of the first mover batches of people that are really starting to build each side of the bridge from like a mainstream storytelling point of view, which ties us back into this Beard Bros travel evolution. Let's talk about the next milestone that we did together, which was basically collaborating on a couple market visits, destination visits. Yep. And one of those was a lounge hopping experience in West Hollywood, working hand in hand with the Emerald Village and Scott Schmidt and the amazing lounges of West Hollywood. Open floor. I'd love for some of you guys to just share a little bit about that experience, and then we'll dive into the Coachella Valley one. But let's tackle West Hollywood first. What was that like, doing a kind of a destination blitz that was cannabis inclusive for that first collab?
Well, I mean, let's talk about how lucky are all of us that we live close enough to West Hollywood to go enjoy that.
So right? It's a high bar when you start with West Hollywood. I mean,
we definitely got spoiled. I don't think there's any other cities. I could be mistaken, Brian, but I don't think there's any other cities with more lounges.
Yeah, at least not that you can eat and like consume, right? And
and so having that set up by Emerald Village, and also the city of West Hollywood, if I'm not mistaken, had a part in what we were doing as well. And so from the stay at Petit Hermitage to going to all the different lounges and being welcomed into them and being able to check out all their services, like it was really amazing. And I feel like we were able to show, again, normalizing the plant. Right. We're all just 5 normal people here, and we all got to go hang out in West Hollywood and go consume cannabis, and the sky didn't fall and it wasn't the end of the world. And we all had a great time. And I think it's like just,
that might have been the trip when when you guys finally accepted that, hey, maybe I am an influencer and maybe that's not such a bad thing. Like, look at these perks I get. I'm in a cool hotel at a rooftop pool and I can smoke right here. Okay, maybe influencer life isn't so bad.
No, it was not.
I think it reinforced what we've talked about already on the show about the experience and how it is normalized, but also how everything is different and unique. Each place we went to had its own specific lane that it walked in, where they weren't really competing with each other. And I think that opens it up for a collaborative effort where they're all pushing in the same direction, because they're not all, to Bill's point, not chasing the race to the bottom, or they're not all chasing the same consumer. They're all offering a unique set and setting, which we all know, that's one of the key things in all plant medicine is the set and the setting, and it's going to influence what your experience is like. And they've all crafted and curated these specific experiences that are repeatable, that resonate with viewers when they see us experiencing it. And it was just a fantastic weekend, from the restaurants to the lounges that we went to the clubs and bars that we went around that. And the fact that it was all pretty much within walking distance. So it could be a sustainable tour as well. From that perspective, it could be a physical health journey as well as, consuming and having that. So it again, to quote Brian, he loves to say this, it checked a lot of boxes there. I don't know what it didn't check from that experience.
We got so much content.
Yeah. And the experience is the product, right? It's this, obviously it's an interesting play too, because again, this is an interesting newly emerging space. So you kind of find out which hotels are going to be cannabis friendly and which venues. We went to a historic music venue as part of this as well, where it was, they saw an opportunity. They're like, a lot of our audience who comes and listens to music are not necessarily sober and probably use cannabis. And we can position our club as a great music experience. That's a very, historic experience for LA, West Hollywood. So yeah, anything else you guys want to add on the Emerald Village, West Hollywood destination blitz we did?
I just think it's cool that West Hollywood kind of has its own, like, that Emerald Village exists. It's like rooting for all the cannabis, like, destination experiences and businesses in the area for tourists. Like, that's pretty cool. They have like a whole little map and everything. And yeah, that's very lucky for them and for us to get to experience it, for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's now talk about the second kind of destination visit we did, which was the Coachella Valley, which is a valley of 9 different cities. Some of them have cannabis shops, some of them don't. Some of them have lounges, some of them don't. But at the end of the day, it's one region, it's one destination. Most people associate it with the name Palm Springs, but it's Coachella Valley. And we worked with CVCAN, the Coachella Valley Cannabis Alliance Network, and we did a handful of days. I think something interesting about this one too is some of the partner food experiences that kind of raised their hand. Whereas West Hollywood, a lot of it was integrated because they have restaurants inside of the cannabis lounges. This one, we had a couple experiences that were a bit adjacent. So why don't you all share a little bit about the Coachella Valley Canna Week and what was memorable or what learnings came from that?
What I liked about Coachella Valley Cannabis Week that we did was we stayed in Desert Hot Springs. So we were like on the far end of it at this really cool hotel that had 9 different temperatured springs. Yet we were still at a lounge that was downtown on Main Street, essentially, not a couple blocks from the Marilyn Monroe statue, consuming cannabis like it was normal, which was fantastic. Again, normalizing the plant. I really feel that cannabis and travel can normalize the plant. And like you said, we were welcomed into an amazing restaurant at Trio. We had some awesome ice cream out of place. So the mainstream businesses are recognizing that there is a position for them within cannabis and travel.
Especially restaurants. They'll sell more food if we got the munchies.
I mean, I really liked it. I really liked it. Of course, for us, it was a natural evolution from the West Hollywood thing to do a little bit more, right? But those also serve as 2 different models too that a potential people could explore to do with us or what have you. I really liked that in the Coachella Valley case, you had, to everybody's point, mainstream businesses combining with government agencies and and essentially and the cannabis infrastructure and a professional cannabis organization, to basically create a nice experience for people. We even had a great app where you could do check-ins and it gamified it and stuff, and there's discounts you could get, and there was visits at different retails that were very excited to do it. The types of lounges that are in that vicinity are really fun. You can have, like, one of them had live entertainment. One of them, felt a little bit more like your basement, but it was in a cool way. I mean that. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean where you're like hanging out with your buddies and playing video games like when you were a kid. Then there's ones that had like really nice outdoor kind of situations happening. I just, it's really cool to be able to be doing that, to everybody's larger point. But it's also so important because as everybody sees how everybody works together, it just makes honestly more business for everybody. Quite literally, and it helps with exposure. It just, again, checks all the boxes. So
the biggest thing I noticed as a differentiator between the WeHo one and the Palm Springs one was kind of where they are in their lounge journey. West Hollywood's a much more established, much more high end, much more bucket list tourism style of a lounge, whereas Palm Springs is much more of a burgeoning start off to it, and these are the people that are kind of taking the risk when it's still not quite as accepted, and just the area in general isn't as advanced as maybe a West Hollywood LA is. And I think we did a great job of pivoting that by adding in educational through Palm Springs, through through their senior center, where we had people there that didn't have much exposure to cannabis that could find out about it. And then we're letting them know, yeah, we're gonna go over here to Trio and grab some food. We're going over here to grab the ice cream. We're going to do these other things. And they live there, but didn't, now they might become regulars or loyal people to those businesses because those businesses are supporting what they're passionate about. So I think it offers a way to build community. And I saw a lot more of that occurring there in Palm Springs. Not that it's not occurring in West Hollywood, but it was just more visceral in Palm Springs.
Yeah, the cool part about that, CV Can brought in the RN, and she did like the Ask a Weed Nurse sessions at the senior center. Like, I think they did like 2 or 3 different sessions and some like different educational stuff. And like, so we went to that in the morning, and then we went to a lounge and then had lunch, and like, it's just cool to like see all those different spectrums of like wellness and medical, and seniors using cannabis, and all the different applications and ways you can incorporate it into a destination and into an experience was cool in that one. So we kind of just leveled up and expanded what was offered, and especially with the check-in challenge thing, which Brian and I created on our Ganja Traveler app.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the restaurants and the ice cream place and stuff on the check-in challenge too, so people could kind of follow along, but it wasn't just cannabis, it was cannabis and.
Yep. Yeah, there was an access point for you, old, young, the connoisseur, curious. There was you're curious about a lot of people are really curious about how everything's developing, because one big sliver of people who are interested in cannabis and hemp that don't consume are people who want fair laws, want medicine to be able to be available for people, veterans, friends, etc.
It's a human rights issue. It's like an
yes, it is, right? If this is cancer, what are we doing over here? Exactly. Yeah. So, bottom line, so anyhow, my point is, there was an access point at that week for anybody who was interested in any aspect of the business, even down to if you like ice cream, that's a retreat, learning more about the cannabis culture, but quite literally, Brian, I know he probably won't bring it up. He gave a fantastic presentation to a group, at a senior center in Palm Springs. And it was really great. It was really set the plate for the week, and did talk a lot about some of the bigger overarching themes we're hitting on today. Different kind of audiences, how we can bridge the gap between all these different folks, come together, provide good experience economy, all the good things. Brian, I'm learning. See that? Doing good. Yeah. Anyways, the point is, it was really, really great. Set the plate, and there's just a lot of different. My point is, there's a lot of different access points for everybody. It was a great combination of everything, and everybody needed to continue to elevate everything. So.
Yeah. And in that kickoff event you just referenced, we had the mayor of Desert Hot Springs. We had one of the leads for the Coachella Valley when it comes to economic development, talking about the size of the cannabis industry in the Valley, and what does it mean from tax-paying businesses to people who are part of our community who work at these places. And so really getting that integration from the different levels of the community, including CV Can, who spoke at this kickoff event too.
And the owner of one of the lounges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
that was kind of unique, I thought, of in Coachella Valley, was Red Falcon is on tribal land, and so they're actually able to serve alcohol and sell cannabis on the same premises, but it's all like vertically integrated, like it's all grown and processed by them. So you won't see like your brands that you recognize necessarily, but they had every form factor, and like you could drink a cider flight alongside your joints and stuff. It was like, whoa. This is
while you're watching the game. Oh my goodness.
That was pretty cool.
So we kind of recap the journey to here. And so tying this back into Beard Bros Travel, officially this is kind of bringing it out to the world. Beard Bros Media has created an amazing deck, taken all the learnings and the collaboration we've done over the past few years, and now you've had this repositioned kind of media services offering specifically for this travel and tourism, the cannabis travel audience. So, Beard Bros team, can you speak a little bit to kind of the Beard Bros Travel deck and what this evolution is for the Beard Bros brand and Beard Bros Media?
Yeah, I think what we put together with Beard Bros Travel is everything from content creation, which Beard Bros Media is known for, that would cover the cannabis and the ancillary aspects of it, but everything up to the influencer campaigns that we talked about, to where it could be everything from just an article, or you could literally have us come for a week and do a cannabis week event in your town as well. We realized as we started speaking with you and tying more things in together, there's so many different aspects of cannabis and travel that can be connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, it was more of a logical evolution. We saw over time we'd done all these different sort of types of events with different structure, but they all sort of the same kind of thing, right? We're drawing attention, whether it's from like a B2C perspective or a B2B perspective. You know, we're trying to draw attention to either the community and or the industry to bring people together to either do business and or learn and or, you know, provide opportunity for knowledge, fun, you know, education, business, you know, things like that. We're in a really great position to be able to do that for a wide variety of types of businesses and now a wide variety of spaces. And it just made sense to be able to sort of repackage everything that we already had been doing as ways to kind of attract that particular audience, right? The folks that really are really leaning towards highlighting the things that they do well. Like if I'm a dispensary in you know, Palm Springs with a consumption lounge, you know, you might want to work with us because we're able to, you know, highlight you in different ways and also understand that you need to move the needle for your business. So we, you know, interweave campaigns and our services in ways that move the needle for people. You want to draw attention to your, you know, destination, your lounge, all these different things. We love to bring attention to those things, and we love to, you know, work with people to highlight them in all the different ways that, you know, we can try to. And there's, you know, different models for all those things. We're fortunate to be able to do them, so we are able to put them together in a deck along with our already established media services to sort of repackage into Beard Bros Travel that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jeff or Megan, anything else to add?
I was gonna say, I echoing Bill and Brian, I kind of see it as a natural evolution, and the exciting thing for me is the opportunity to work with new people from outside of cannabis and bring them into cannabis and expose them to it in the correct way, with the correct people, with the correct settings, with the correct events. So that's what it's really is the exciting part to me is the new opportunities that it naturally spawns, and I'm sure there's a handful of them that none of us have even given any thought to that will pop up between now and the end of the year or into early next year as things continue to evolve and move forward. So that somewhat unpredictable nature of it, but in a good way. We've had a lot of unpredictable in cannabis in bad ways. It's nice to be optimistic about things.
Yeah, this is a good.
It's like I think travel provides kind of a way forward, and like incorporating more hospitality and experiences into what you're offering as a cannabis brand or as a farm or as a lounge or a dispensary or whatever you're doing in the space, like incorporating more hospitality training and stuff like that is going to be a good way to get more people into the space and make it more comfortable and break that stigma. And
Yeah.
I think cannabis is a connector, travel is a connector, so it's a natural fit. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural evolution of our ethos, right?
Yep.
As an organization, we are the intersection of culture and industry. That means that we're probably well positioned to, you know, work with things that can basically either galvanize, attract a large swath of the people of the audience that's attracted to not just cannabis, but the lifestyle, the culture, the hemp, everything, biotech, natural ingredients, entertainment, all these things that like it spurs from the lifestyle, right? The products. So it's natural for us to be evolved. It's like our work with Freedom Grow. It's very similar. Who can't galvanize around the fact that there's people in prison that shouldn't be? Who isn't aware that that's shitty? Who can't agree that that's not okay, right? Pretty much everybody. Who can't agree that travel experiences are awesome and a lot of fun and what we all crave in whatever ways we do adjust to our sort of liking or our family or, you know, our own features, but we want to do them, right? They're vacations, they're experiences. We want to experience those things. There isn't anybody who doesn't like that, you know, for whatever it is that they do. So we really just try to focus on things that, you know, our audience will continue to grow from, but that also that they like, and it can, you know, be, you know, our news can be galvanizing sometimes for the same reason, but it's okay. You know, we're ultimately just covering what the majority of people, we think, you know, would like to see and experience. So.
And the timing, you know, the timing is really interesting, because if you look at the projected growth of wellness tourism, it's just exponential. And we're working with a plant that is inherently kind of a medicine plant and really uplifts quality of life and wellness. So as far as the timing of cannabis emerging as a travel trend that is largely anchored in wellness and well-being, it really aligns well with the future potential of people caring more about their quality of life and their wellness. And travel is a hell of a platform to be a teacher in that and to position it authentically that way. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you all for being here and sharing more about Beard Bros Travel and your new vision for cannabis and hemp experiences. Travel Tuesdays brought to you by the Beard Bros Media Network, where culture meets industry. Woo, woo. I'm your host, Brian Applegarth. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next month for another episode of Travel Tuesday.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.